Today's lesson is what does it take to be real on social media? Hello everyone, my name is Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to talk about social media, and we're going to talk about how social media is kind of bad for people's well-being, their self-esteem, and what some other media companies are trying to do about this, especially something called Be Real. It's trying to change what social media is doing to people.
That's right, because a lot of what we see on social media perhaps isn't real because they represent people's lives in a way that makes those lives look a lot better than they actually are.
Exactly. So there's kind of a new platform online that's trying to show people their real side instead of looking at photographs that have been changed with filters and stuff like that. And that's trying to make people be real and genuine and sincere instead of just trying to put on airs while they're on social media. So let's find out what this is all about, everybody. Let's listen to the first part, and then we'll come back to discuss it.
What does it take to be real on social media? Social media giants have recently begun taking steps to reduce the harm their platforms do to users' well-being. Instagram has tested removing like counts to make posts less of a competition. Facebook has cracked down on posts about suicide and self-harm, and Snapchat offers a collection of mental health resources. However, it's all too little, too late.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 well-being， 这个字是名词，意思是健康、安乐或是福祉。例如 For the sake of your well-being, you should consider taking a holiday. 为了你的健康着想，你应该考虑放个假。或是 This past week, Trevor lost both his job and his girlfriend, so we're all quite concerned about his emotional well-being. 过去这一周 Trevor 双双失去工作和女友，所以我们都很担心他的情绪健康。接着我们看到片语 crack down on， 指严厉打击或是惩戒，像是 The police cracked down on software pirates， 警方打击盗版软体，或是 The mayor has decided to crack down on crime after a spate of robberies， 由于抢案频传，该市长决定打击犯罪。另外补充这个片语中的单字 crack， 这个字是动词，表示裂开或是破裂。我们可以说 The road cracked after the heavy rain， 暴雨过后路都裂开了。也可以说 The glass window cracked and broke into pieces， 那扇玻璃窗裂开，碎成了碎片。
So jumping right into the first part of today's lesson, the first sentence says, Social media giants have recently begun taking steps to reduce the harm their platforms do to users' well-being. So social media giants, when we talk about those, we're basically talking about platforms or websites like Facebook, Instagram, and other websites that a lot of people use for their social media. And these social media giants have recently begun taking steps to reduce the harm their platforms do. So when you take steps to do something, you begin to perform certain actions to create a certain effect or result.
Exactly. And of course, this cannot be done all at once. It requires small stages or small steps. So these media giants have begun to take steps. They're doing this one step at a time because they want to reduce the harm that their platforms do to users' well-being. And your well-being basically refers to how well you're doing in life, if you're healthy mentally and physically. So I think here we're talking about their mental health, and they want people to feel good when they go on these web pages, on these social media sites. They don't want them to feel jealous of other people or inferior.
Right, so here are some examples. Instagram has tested removing like counts to make posts less of a competition. So if you're an Instagram user, you'll know that when you upload a photo or some kind of update, when people see it, they can like it. So what happens is that a lot of people tend to feel bad when they don't get as many likes as they expected, or they feel really good about themselves when they get a lot of likes, to the extent that people begin to compare the number of likes they have with other Instagram users. And in that sense, having likes becomes a competition. So a competition is a situation where you are trying to be better or more successful than somebody else.
Right. The verb, of course, is to compete, and so the noun form is competition. And indeed, on social media platforms, sometimes it does feel like a competition. Like, do you have more friends than other people have, or are you getting more likes than other people get? So indeed, it does feel like a competition. And again, Instagram has tested removing like counts. They're testing it, and you don't see the counts there, and so it does not feel like a competition. And then Facebook has cracked down on posts about suicide and self-harm. So if you crack down, that means the police or someone in authority starts to enforce the rules. Okay, sometimes, for example, maybe speed limits are not being enforced, and one day the police say, hey, we're going to crack down on people who exceed the speed limit, so they start stopping cars all over the place. They crack down on people who exceed the speed limit. And in this particular case, Facebook is going to be more serious about getting rid of posts about suicide and self-harm. Suicide, of course, refers to killing yourself. Self-harm means hurting yourself. And then we've got Snapchat. Snapchat offers a collection of mental health resources. A collection of means just a series of things put together in a particular place. A library may have a good collection of atlases, books with maps in them. It might be a good place to check out such things like that if they have a good collection of those things. And here they offer various articles about mental health. If you read those articles, maybe you'll feel better about yourself.
Right, so we have these three social media giants, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, that have already taken steps to make users feel better about themselves and not be negatively affected by their use of social media. However, it's all too little too late. In other words, these steps that have been taken have come a little bit too late, because people have already been affected negatively by using these social media sites. And frankly, they haven't done enough. What they have done has come too late, and they haven't done enough either, because evidently people are still having negative reactions to using social media sites.
Yep, it's too late. The damage has been done, so somebody else needs to step in and try to correct the situation. So let's move on now to the second part of our lesson and learn more about this very fascinating topic.
Since its beginning, social media has changed from being a simple method of connecting with friends to being a popularity contest in which users are pressured into presenting a perfect version of their lives. It hooks them into scrolling endlessly, even as it harms their body image, worsens their mood, and encourages bullying.
Since its beginnings, social media has changed from being a simple method of connecting with friends to being a popularity contest in which users are pressured into presenting a perfect version of their lives. So if you are old enough to remember when Facebook first came out and started using it when it first came out, you'll remember that Facebook was just a website where friends who already knew each other in life were able to share photos with each other of their holidays, of special events, but slowly Facebook became something else. It was a place where people began to meet new people and to show how popular they are. So it became a place where people began to have popularity contests. In other words, as Roger had mentioned before, people would see how many friends other people had, if they had more friends than other people, if their pictures showed that they were going to more parties or socializing more than other people. So in a way, it became a competition of how popular a person was on social media.
Right, so the word popular means that you're known by a lot of people and you are liked by a lot of people. Of course, we all know there are people who are popular in high school or in university. I was not very popular. I was kind of a loner. But in this particular case, we're talking about Facebook being a popularity contest. Instead of just sharing pictures or exchanging messages with your friends and family, we were basically showing off and bragging about how many friends we had and how many exotic places we had been to, etc., etc. So, of course, people were pressured into presenting a perfect version of their lives. So yes, indeed, if there is a popularity contest going on, and if you want to participate, well, you need to put your best foot forward, don't you? You need to have really good pictures of yourself. You need to have very clever posts. And of course, you need to have some great information that nobody else seems to know about. So indeed, you want to present a perfect version of yourself.
So social media hooks them or hooks users into scrolling endlessly, even as it harms their body image, worsens their mood, and encourages bullying. So these social media sites hook users into scrolling endlessly. When you scroll, you're moving information up and down on your computer screen or on your smartphone screen. So you're basically going through the feed of your social media site, and you do this endlessly. You spend a lot of time doing this, even though doing this is actually harming you because it's not making you feel better. It's worsening your mood. Your mood worsens, which means it gets worse. It doesn't get better. And it also harms your body image. So while you are seeing photos of people in their bathing suits or dressed up and they look nice, then that might have the effect of making you feel like you don't look as good as them, or you're not as beautiful or as handsome as that person. And lastly, social media also encourages bullying. So bullying is when somebody treats another person badly because that person is weaker or that person is smaller. It often happens in school, in middle school and high school, but now bullying also takes place a lot on social media and on the internet.
Right, so bullying is when you bully other people. So a bully, of course, is somebody who bullies other people. They engage in bullying. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on now to the third and final part.
Traditional social media platforms make money by selling users' attention to advertisers. This business model means that user engagement determines how much advertising money the platform makes. Thus, there is an incentive for social media platforms to consume as much user time as possible. The addictive nature of social media, combined with the tendency of humans to compare themselves to others, traps users into spending countless hours looking at others' apparently perfect lives, much to their own harm. Clearly, a totally new system needs to be adopted.
"第三部分我们看到单字 advertiser， 这个字是名词，指广告客户或是刊登广告者。例如 Television stations make money by getting advertisers to pay to run commercials. 电视台从广告客户播放广告的费用中获利。或是 Advertisers spend a large amount of money shooting television commercials. 广告刊登者花很多钱拍摄电视广告。另外补充 advertiser 的动词 advertise, A-D-V-E-R-T-I-S-E, advertise, 只为点点点做广告或是宣传。像是 The store has advertised that there will be a sale this weekend. 那家店广告说这周末会有一场特卖会。也可以说 You should advertise your coffee shop in the newspaper and on TV. 你应该在报纸和电视上宣传你的咖啡店。最后我们看到名词 incentive， 指激励、刺激或是动机。例如 The government has introduced incentives to promote electric car ownership. 政府推出奖励制度来提倡购买电动车。或是 Not everyone is familiar with our product, so they may need an incentive to buy. 不是所有人都熟悉我们的产品，所以他们可能需要一些动机来购买。另外补充这个字的同义名词 spur, S-P-U-R, spur, 意思是刺激或是鼓舞。举例来说 A warning from his teacher was the spur that caused Jerry to study harder. 老师给他的警告刺激 Jerry 更加努力读书。或者 The government hopes that tourism will be a spur to economic growth. 政府希望旅游产业会刺激经济成长。
So now we're going to look a little bit at social media and how it actually functions. Now, traditional social media platforms make money by selling users' attention to advertisers. So that's something that I had wondered in the past. How do social media companies make money if it's all free? You don't have to pay to use social media sites. Well, the way they make money is that they have advertisers, and they make money from these advertisers by convincing users to continue using the social media site as long as possible so that advertisers have a chance to grab the attention of the users. An advertiser is a company or a person who advertises a service or a product.
Exactly. Okay, so advertising, of course, is when they advertise things in media, either through television, on the radio, in newspapers and magazines, or on the internet, especially on social media websites. And this business model means that user engagement determines how much advertising money the platform makes. So we have user engagement here. That refers to when users are actually interacting with the websites. Maybe they click on the advertisements to see what they're all about to get more information. So that means the users are engaged. And if you're engaged, that means you are involved. You're having an interaction. So yes, indeed, user engagement just refers to user interaction or getting users involved.
That's right. So sometimes teacher will come up with fun and interesting ways to teach a subject so that their students' engagement level will be raised or will improve. So that's the meaning of engagement.
And thus, there is an incentive for social media platforms to consume as much user time as possible. So here we've got the word incentive. That means you just have the desire to do something. They put an advertisement there or they have an interesting post. So therefore, you have the incentive to click on that post to check it out. And again, there is that incentive for social media platforms to consume as much user time as possible. They want you to be engaged as long as possible because you're going to look at more advertisements that way. The addictive nature of social media combined with the tendency of humans to compare themselves to others traps users into spending countless hours looking at others' apparently perfect lives, much to their own harm. My goodness, that is a very long sentence, so let's break it down into smaller parts. We've got the addictive nature of social media. If something's addictive, that means you want to keep going back to it and using it over and over again. Some kinds of drugs are addictive. You don't want to start taking them, otherwise you'll get addicted to those drugs. So social media is addictive. People want to be taking out their phones all day long and checking out those social media websites to see how many likes they've got and who's posted what. So yes, it's very addictive. You become a junkie, and that is combined with the tendency of humans to compare themselves to others. Indeed, we have this tendency, we have this likelihood, we are more likely to compare ourselves to other people. So indeed, we're always kind of seeing if we match up with other people all the time because that is part of survival.
Right, so a tendency could be a habit or an attitude that comes from somebody's character. So you could say something like, Josh has a tendency to be late, or Josh has a tendency to tell lies. So it's just a habit of doing something. And something that's addictive, you want to do it a lot because you derive pleasure from it. So you derive pleasure from chocolate, and you might be addicted to chocolate, and chocolate can be said to be addictive.
Right, so these two things, being addicted to social media and tending to compare yourselves to others, well, these things will trap you into spending countless hours looking at others' apparently perfect lives. So you'll be trapped into doing something, okay, which means basically you will start doing that thing and you probably won't really realize you're doing it. You'll be sitting there and you'll realize, my goodness, I've been swiping on my phone for the past 1 whole hour. I could have done something more useful with my time, but I'm scrolling with my thumb on my phone here, and so I'm spending countless hours looking at those other posts, and they seem to have perfect lives. How can I compare to those people when they're so perfect, they're so pretty, they've been to so many exotic locations, they are so cool, they know such cool people? How can I possibly compare?
That's right, because people forget that other people only post about the good things in their lives, and they're not going to post about the bad or the boring things in their lives. So there is this tendency to think that other people have better lives than we do. Now, clearly, a totally new system needs to be adopted. So because of these reasons, because of these negative effects of social media, it is clearly, that a totally new system needs to be adopted. To adopt something means to decide to use a particular method or a particular system for a particular purpose. So I could say that the school adopted a new teaching method to try to raise students' engagement in learning. And the writer of this article is saying that a new system needs to be adopted, put into use to make users think less negatively about their own lives.
Right, so as we said earlier, these websites need to do something about these mental health issues, but as we said, it's all too little too late. We need someone new on the scene, and that's what Be Real is all about. We'll talk about that more in detail in our next program, but right now we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分有一个句子写到，社群媒体的成瘾性加上人类常与别人比较，诱使用户花无数个小时关注别人看似完美的生活。好，文中他用到 the tendency of humans to compare themselves to others 来表达说人类常与人比较。那么 tendency 这个名词就可以表达倾向，可以指可能像是思想啊、行为等等的倾向。好，那我们来看看它的字根哦。我们看到 tend 或是 tens 或者是 tent 这一类的字根，它就有展开、伸展或是拉紧的意思。像是 tension， 它就是由 tens 表示拉紧，然后再加上名词字尾 ion 构成，所以 tension 它就有紧张、紧绷的意思。那么在 tendency 这个字当中，它的字根 tend 表示延展。ENCY 是名词字尾，我们可以借由往某个方向延展、移动过去、靠过去，去联想到 tendency 它有倾向或者是趋势的意思。我们顺便补充几个有这一类字根的单字。第一个是 contend， 它的字首 CON 表示一起，是做强调用。TEND 表示伸展，那同学们可以试着用大家一起伸手竞相争夺东西，一起伸手抢东西的那种感觉，去联想 contend 它有竞争、争夺的意思。第二个补充的是 pretend， 它的字首 PRE 表示在点点点之前。TEND 这个字根表示展开，那根据字面上的意思，它原本是说在前方延展开来，那就带有在大家面前发表意见、宣称的那种语义。那么在公众面前发表意见，其实就是希望能够说服别人嘛。那后来呢，它就衍生出那种假装或者是自称什么什么的意思。 第三个补充的是 extent， 它的字首 ex 表示向外，那么 tent 表示展开。向外展开应该可以联想到 extent， 它有范围、广度或是程度的意思。好，那另外要介绍的是 compare A to B 的不同意思哦。第一种，我们来看看 compare A to B 在课文的用法呢，就是表达说将 A 与 B 来做比较，拿 A 跟 B 来相比，也就是把这两者放在一起做比较，找出它们的异同。其中的 to 也可以换成 with。举例来说 ，Gina's parents used to compare her with her older sister all the time. Gina 的爸妈以前老是拿她跟姐姐来做比较。好，那第二个用法呢，我们可以用 compare A to B 来表达将 A 比作 B， 将 A 比喻为 B。那这个用法是在强调两者之间相似的地方。compare 在这边就有比拟、比喻的意思。那特别注意这边的 to 就不能换成 with。举例来说 ，Life is often compared to a voyage. 人生常被比喻为一趟旅程。好，那我们再顺便补充一下，如果是 compared to 加上名词，则是表达相较于点点点，和什么比起来，跟什么相较之下，那它是独立分词片语，你可以把它摆在句首，或者是接在主要子句的后面，像是 Matt is a diligent student compared to his classmates， 跟他的同学比起来， Matt 是一个勤奋努力的学生。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Competition. The school held a competition to see who could raise the most money for charity. Popularity. The book increased in popularity after it was promoted by several celebrities. Bullying. The principal was determined to eliminate bullying at the school. Engagement. The website wants to increase user engagement by improving the design. Incentive.The possibility of a raise provided an incentive for employees to work long hours. Tendency. Tony has a tendency to talk about how much money he makes. Adopt. Ted and Belle adopted the local customs when they moved to Spain.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.